President Bola Tinubu today is met with military top brass behind closed doors. And Governor Biodun Oyebanji of Ekiti State has secured APC's ticket to run for a second term. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on China's television. I am Sean Kimaloye right here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Let's begin by bringing you up to speed with what happened today in the capital of Ekiti State, where the governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Biodun Oyebanji, has clinched the ticket of the All Progressives Congress, APC, to emerge the party's candidate and flag bearer for the 2026 governorship election in the state, following a consensus affirmation exercise which held today at the Ekiti Parakwa Pavilion in Ado-Ekiti. The exercise saw 885 delegates from the 16 local government areas of the state endorsing Oyebanji, who is seeking a second term as governor. The Special Nomination Congress, supervised by a 10-member committee chaired by Kogi State Governor Usman Ododo, officially ratified Oyebanji's candidacy after the voluntary withdrawal of the only other cleared aspirant, Mrs. Atinuke Omolayo. The Edo State Governor, Senator Monday Opebolo, served as deputy chairman of the committee, while Honorable Taiwo Sumonu was there as the secretary of the committee.
Your endorsement today is an affirmation of the wishes of thousands of our members who made similar decisions in the wards and local government congresses that held 2 days ago. I deeply appreciate your decision and hereby accept this honor to fly the flag of a great party in the governorship election that comes next year. Be assured, however, that I am eternally indebted to you all, and I will never take this honor for granted. Thank you so very much. I can say without any fear of contradiction that this is the first time in our history that a ruling party will be presenting a candidate by consensus. This is a historic moment in our political development, and it signals the major metrics of political maturity and a trend towards stability that has still begun in year 2022.
Governor Biodun Oyebanji's acceptance speech on clinching the ticket of the APC for the governorship election. So much to talk about. I have an eminent Nigerian, an elder statesman in all sense of it, to give us insight into major issues in the land. So stick around with me, everyone. Before we get talking, let me bring to you some of your political roundup stories.
The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors (NARD) has announced plans to commence an indefinite nationwide strike starting November 1, 2025, following the expiration of a 30-day ultimatum earlier issued to the Nigerian government. The president of the association, Dr. Mohammed Suleiman, made the announcement during a press briefing in Abuja. He disclosed that the decision was reached after the association's National Executive Council (NEC) reviewed the government's response to their demands during an emergency virtual meeting on Saturday. Ahead of the 2027 general elections, the former governorship candidate of Kogi State, Olayinka Brimo, has defected to the African Democratic Congress. Brimo was the governorship candidate of Action Alliance in the 2023 election. Speaking in Kaba, the headquarters of Kaba Bunu local government area, on Saturday during the official defection, Brimo said his decision to join the ADC was born out of his desire to bring change to the leadership terrain of Kogi State. Meanwhile, the former chief of staff to the former governor of Abia State, Mascot Uzo Kalu, has declared his intention to contest the 2027 Abia governorship election on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Kalu made the declaration before a gathering of party members in Umuahia, pledging to promote financial transparency and ensure that the Abia government house fully returns to Umuahia, the state capital. The Kebbi State government Governor Nasir Idris has approved a minor reshuffle in his cabinet as part of ongoing efforts to strengthen governance and enhance administrative efficiency across the state. In a statement issued on Monday by the Secretary to the State Government, Yakubu Tafida, and made available to journalists in Birnin Kebbi, the governor redeployed 2 members of the State Executive Council. According to the statement, Samala Ojie has been moved to Ministry of Health, while Ariru Wasagu now heads the Ministry of Internal Security. Lastly, former governor of Jigawa State, Mr. Sule Lamido, is threatening to drag the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to court should the party deny him his right to purchase the form for the position of the national chairman in the forthcoming convention. Mr. Lamido made the declaration at the headquarters of the PDP in Abuja after efforts to obtain the PDP expression of interest form for the chairmanship position failed. The former governor had approached the national organizing secretary of the party for the form, but was told that forms for the various vacant positions to be filled at the November 15 and 16, 2025 National Elective Convention of the party were sold by the chairman of the convention committee, Governor Umar Fintiri of Adamawa State.
We begin from the presidential villa where President Bola Tinubu today for the very first time has met with the new service chiefs in a closed-door meeting. Although the reason for the meeting is not known, but the fact remains that this is going to be the very first meeting the president will be having with the new service chiefs since he appointed them and had a reshuffling of a service chief's rank. And today, some of those who were in attendance, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede, the Chief of Air Staff, Vice Marshal Kennedy Aneke, the Chief of Naval Staff, Rear Admiral Idi Abbas, and the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Waidi Shaibu. So tonight, let's focus our attention on major issues that pertains to the progress and the development of our country. And so tonight, I will be speaking with an elder statesman and a very prominent voice in the business and civic reform community, Mr. Atedo Peterside. He's a founder of Stanbic IBTC Bank and the president of the ANAP Foundation. He will be examining for us the state of the nation, the state of the Nigerian economy, the call for electoral reform as we have elections coming in, a new leadership in INEC, and the state of Nigeria's democracy from the judiciary to free speech, and even the economy reality is driving what has now become a phenomenon, the Japa wave. Mr. Atedo Peterside, thanks so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Good evening.
I appreciate your time. I'd like to begin the conversation around perhaps one of the most important aspects of governance in this country, which is security. You saw what the president has just done in the last few days. What is your own view about the decision of the president, the state of security in the country, and where perhaps we need to work things out?
You know, the state of the security, I'm not a security expert, but to me, the way to measure whether something has improved is to ask yourself sincerely, Shehu, which parts of the country are you prepared to do a road journey without armed military escorts? Last week, I drove from Akure to Ondo. People were begging me not to drive from Akure to Ondo. And I said, why? I don't know if you saw somebody said there was some leaked DSS, either interception or the other, about some people planning to attack communities in Ondo and all that. So when people keep on saying that things have improved, do they actually go out and travel and test it? It's almost as if the number of places you can conveniently drive from one town to another is shrinking all the time. Okay, years ago, you couldn't go and drive around rural Borno State. But now then Zamfara joined, now it's parts of Yobe. Now we're talking all the way down to Kogi, Ondo State and all that. So I'm just giving you real life examples. So have things really improved? 10 years ago, would anybody have told you not to drive from Akure to Ondo? So that's the way I measure things. I'm not saying I'm right.
Let's look at the economy of security. And if you do a comparative analysis of the sheer number and the population of the people of this country, and the amount spent on security, would you say that is sufficient?
You know, I focus more on. I don't like looking at just numbers in aggregate. Probably the lion's share of that so-called security vote is spent on armed escorts for big men. Is that security really? That is really using the state to finance an expenditure that most people should be using their own money for. So people say we have so many how many thousand policemen. How many of them are actually involved in policing? Sometimes you see one political heavyweight or even a businessman sometimes. Let's be fair. It's not just the politicians. You see a businessman going for a hamburger, and there are about 20 or 30 policemen escorting him. So what kind of country are we trying to build? I'm not saying people should not be entitled to some escort if they're going to a dangerous place. But it cannot be that we recruit policemen in large numbers and all we use them for is not to protect the entire populace, but to protect a narrow segment, probably the top 100,000 people or the top 500,000. And that is something that I think we'll recall throughout this discussion. The problem in Nigeria today is not so much the aggregate. What should be spent on 220 million people is actually being used to protect or feather the nest or pamper or encourage or spoil the top 1 million people. So large sums of money are being voted for 220 million people, but it's being captured by an elite 1 million or an elite 500,000. That is the real problem. And it's not just in security. In several areas, it's the same problem.
So you look at, you track back in the last 3-4 years, and just in the year that the president came into office, statistics on security show that things slowed down and crime rate fell dramatically into the very first year of the president. But things got bad again sometimes in part of this year. And there are those who will say there are a lot of efforts that have been made. But it comes to the question of what has been an age-long debate in this country about our constitution and the argument and debate over state policing. It does look like it's been mouthed, but no traction.
Since the 2014 National Conference, I've voted in favor of state policing. People talk about state policing as if it's supposed to replace federal policing. No, it's different levels of policing, federal, state, and even possibly community. The idea is that they all operate alongside. The truth is that without state policing and community policing, I've said it repeatedly, it's very difficult to deploy somebody from Adamawa or Zamfara to Akwa Ibom and expect him to resolve local crime. All over the world, the reason why policing is local is that the policeman himself has been in that community for years. Even when you mention some crimes, he's already able to narrow it down to possibly 10 or 8 suspects. He knows them, he can ask them, he can almost begin to narrow down things immediately. He has local knowledge. So we cannot do policing properly and wipe out local knowledge. Whatever you're afraid of, you can mitigate. I'm not going to pretend that I don't know there are some dangers. People worry, if you have state level policing. But if you still have a federal army, you still have a federal police. In America, there's an FBI.
But the fear of the hijack by the state government.
Yes, but
and you see the politicking that happened.
Yes,
your state, Rivers State.
Yes,
I mean, you see the kind of policies that could happen at state level.
But let's be careful. The point I'm making is that we're not talking about either or. We're saying alongside. So there will still be, should still be. It's like in the U.S. now we're talking about National Guard, FBI, Trump trying to deploy National Guard, people are protesting. In our own case, in any case, it's even different. There's no argument as to whether the president can deploy the federal police because he is already doing so. We were saying that since the federal police is deploying, it cannot resolve local crimes, cannot resolve kidnapping, cannot resolve armed robbery. and let a different layer be there alongside. Let me just give you one example. What they talk about state policing. Take the riverine area. Somebody told me the other day that a thief was being chased by supposed police. He ran, he jumped into the water. The police didn't go after him into the water because they can't swim. If it was a community policeman, you jump into the water, the police jumped into the water after you as well, and you continue. I can give examples galore. You cannot remove local knowledge, from policing. And also, when you have local knowledge you get better informants. People have connections, they have families, so they can get information more easily. People are even afraid in Nigeria to give information, to be informants. Because you're giving information to a stranger. The fear is that he will not keep your own name confidential. So our policing is handicapped. Let me venture into an area where I'm not an expert, but people say, I believe Chad has been better able to deal with Boko Haram than Nigeria. Among others, not because they have more money, but because it looks as if there's trust there, informants are taken seriously, and information is acted upon. So Boko Haram find it difficult to operate in Chad. Nigeria is a lot easier for them. Perhaps things have changed, but that was what it was some years ago. And it's not because they have more resources. Police need informants. You need all that, infrastructure. Community must trust the police and live well with them.
Yeah, there are those who say the decision of the president to change the guard as far as the top brass in the military is concerned is an audacious move in realization of the thing. There are challenges and there needs an urgent way to tackle them.
I'm always skeptical about fundamental changes, believing they will come about simply by changing personnel at the top. That's not even unique to the military or to armed forces. It's general. I think there's more to solving an endemic problem than just personnel change at the top. Something is fundamentally wrong. Some problems are systemic. Changing one man may not solve the problem. I don't put so much faith. I don't want to say I have no faith in the new service chiefs. I'm just saying that if all we're relying on is removing Mr. A and putting Mr. B, I'm not very confident.
What do you think?
How many times have we changed service chiefs?
What do you think
in your adult life?
Yeah.
You answered the question for once.
No,
You've lost count. Yeah. And what has changed in the past?
What do you think will work better for us?
That's what I've said.
In securing, apart from state policing, and the president has promised that in his campaign, he said there will be more boots on the ground.
So, I think I don't want to dwell too much on security because I'm not an expert, but I think what I'm saying is that let's do something different. Let's bring in what has been missing, which is the other levels of policing alongside whatever boots on the ground is talking about, commanded or controlled by federal. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm not alone in that. In any case, some time ago, I believe even this government, I heard them make positive noises about state policing. What have they done since then? They pronounce something and they do nothing. Thereafter.
It doesn't look like you're confident about the state of security. What about the state of the economy? That's your strength area. If you look at things over the last 2.5 years or more, how would you describe the trajectory of our economic journey?
I would say some important reform measures were taken early. It's important to recognize that. But let's be very careful. Those are the types of reforms that you could do in 24 hours. That if you can and indicate that's what happened. Forget about how long it took in the foreign exchange market. There was a particular day that the central bank governor told banks they should buy and sell dollars, willing buyer, willing seller. 24 hours later, the market had changed. Likewise with petroleum price. Whether you like the president's style or not, you can deregulate in one day and manage the fallout. So you did those things early. But I think the rest of the actions that some of us always thought should accompany the regulation of petrol prices and so on has not been flowing through. So the result is that I think poverty, we have thrown many people into poverty. And more, it looks as if more and more people are being thrown into poverty. I honestly don't know how many Nigerians are able to live. When I look at the sum total of the income that comes their way in a month, and what they seem to require to even feed themselves and alone, much less their families. So what is it that's missing? When I was the keynote speaker when the Nigerian Economic Summit turned 25, at the time I was advocating for fuel price deregulation. But one of the accompanying measures I mentioned at the time was that as soon as you are doing that, I was saying there should be proper, what I would say, scientific and proper handouts to the poorest of the poor. And with the national ID card we have, everybody has the name. The national ID card is actually a payment-enabled instrument. So some of us thought that simultaneously, even if you were delivering 10,000 to every adult, even if it was 15,000, 15,000 is better than zero. I know they say they've been making payments, but nobody understands who gets payment and who doesn't. When I go to my village, everybody tells me they didn't get 1 naira. So I keep on wondering, who are you making these payments to? Of course, there probably is different in some other parts of the country. But I'm saying that I would have preferred a case where, with the national ID card, with everybody who are the name, you know the people. In fact, the only people you are leaving out are those who definitely have an income, they are paying tax, and they have pensions and things like that. The rest who's on the face of it seem to have nothing. Give them a scientific payment, 10,000, 15, what have you. You see the difference between people who say, oh, those amounts are trivial. But for an unemployed person, it's better than zero. And let me also tell you something about economics. Do you know that you can give somebody 10,000 naira, 15,000 naira. 20 years from now, you can become the next Aliko Dangote. Wealth creation is about knowing how to take 10,000 naira and convert it to 15,000. And then you take 15 and you convert to 20. And 20 to 30. If you keep on doing that non-stop, that compounded growth rate, people get out of poverty. But what instead we had was, having taken those draconian measures which were required, fuel price deregulation,
modification of the windows, yeah.
We had solved the federal government, even before then, the Senate, House of Rep, buying luxury SUVs for themselves. Some of us shouted and said, excuse me, even in 2012, when Nigeria was going through an economic boom, the cars that were bought for those senators and House of Rep members was the Toyota Camry. Now, in the midst of hardship, they've gone for luxury SUVs. I didn't hear the president complain. I'm not saying he was in charge of it, but I didn't hear him complain. I think some of us thought if you were going to take measures that will inflict so much hardship, the leadership themselves, executive, legislature, should be part of it. What did we see next? Jamborees and foreign trips. 400 people going to one country, 500. So it's almost as if what has happened is that the purpose for those actions was to also improve the government's finances. The result is that at different levels, including state government, LGAs, they're getting a lot more revenue. But what are they doing with the revenue? The bulk of them are squandering it. So the purpose of all those reforms was to bring more revenue to government, who would now use that money judiciously to improve healthcare, education. But that's not happening.
But I mean,
it's not only federal.
They say the states are collecting more.
That's what I'm saying.
So
what is the point of people collecting more? And then when one governor is going to the airport, uses the money for 80 cars to accompany him, all burning fuel. Is that what the money is for?
But I mean, the question I like to ask is, I mean, especially for those of you who are in the know and who knows the economics very well, is whether or not, yes, the president said these are tough decisions. There will be initial pain, but there will be gain in the end of the day. The assurance I like my viewers to get on this program is whether or not the hardship that we're experiencing, there is already a light at the end of the tunnel. Do you see the light?
That's the point I'm making.
Do you see the light?
It is true that there could be pain first and gain later. But that gain comes from efficient spending. That gain comes from a whole series of parallel actions. Go back and even go on the internet and check in 2012 when we were discussing removing petroleum subsidy. If you notice, there was talk about simultaneously implementing the report of Orosoye, streamlining government agencies, reducing waste and all that. Here, the government wakes up one day, they pay lip service to Orosoye report, they disappear. They go and spend the money in the lapisly. Each time the president is traveling, about 400 of them take vehicles from all over the place, burning fuel to accompany him or to receive him. They're just showing waste all over the place. So the point I'm making is that gain coming is going to come if you were simultaneously eliminating waste in government spending, using the money judiciously to improve infrastructure, both physical, social, the whole lot. Secondly, also, we were supposed to be doing a whole series of things to make the economy more attractive for investors. You have to make sure that the investors are getting confidence. What I see increasingly is that this economy only works for a few people. So what we have is that if we're not careful, the most likely result is that the GDP will grow, but in terms of income distribution, it will be the very rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. And if you go and check the numbers, a larger number of people are being thrown into poverty every day.
And the threat on the disposable income.
Yes. So
and the capacity to be able to purchase.
Yes. So the point I'm making is that the purpose of all this was to improve the livelihoods of 220 million Nigerians. So it's not enough to just achieve some GDP growth, the very rich get richer, and the poor get poorer.
If you were President Tinubu, what would you be doing now?
I already told you.
It's a tough call.
I also told you that even when I gave that speech 5 years ago, I mentioned I would do cash transfers across the nation.
They've done over 300 billion, as so they say.
But to who? And who did they leave out? Why do you leave out some poor people? I don't get it. Give everybody, even if it's a flat amount. So at least then whoever does not get his own can complain.
Wouldn't that trigger inflation? When you throw those kind of money into
No. Sorry. They claim they're spending almost the same now, or a large sum anyway. There's no inflation created by spending money that you have. That's not correct. Inflation typically comes from the type you're thinking about. If you're printing money, when you don't have resources. Here, the government has gotten the resources, like you said.
Yeah.
State governments have more money. LGAs have more money. But instead of using the money to improve the lives of the people, it is being captured by the elite.
Are we out of the woods?
We are not, because the biggest threat is corruption and state capture. So what I mean is that these measures increase the revenue coming in. But if the revenue is just being stolen, then you're back to square one. So I'm saying that what I call state capture is that people are progressively making arrangements so that they capture a larger share of that revenue. And it's only a narrow elite getting that benefit.
Do you have a feeling that there's a high-level corruption going on at the moment?
Of course. Everybody has that feeling. Everybody has that feeling. If you don't believe me, many of them elevated to that position by systems that allowed merit. So their fathers got a position, they got a position. When they got to that place, instead of them to also have a level playing field and open the doors for other people, they basically removed the ladder and started manipulating and rigging everything. So therefore, if you are a judge, the judges will ensure that only their own children become judges. How did they become judges in the first instance? If those before them only appointed their own children, would they be there? So what's happening is that, that's why I call it state capture. Too many people are shamelessly manipulating and rigging things so that only a narrow elite benefits. Even, let's talk about judiciary. Do you honestly think, haven't you heard about cases where all of a sudden, even a judge who is on holiday is issuing judgments or issuing orders in 24 hours, 48 hours. We have a judicial system that's a disgrace in the sense that only an influential and wealthy person can get accelerated hearing. My father had a case from start to finish, High Court in Rivers State to Supreme Court. It involved, it was a case in Opobo town involving chieftaincy. You know how long it took? 23 years. Go and check. 23 years. Now, perhaps if he was willing to bribe judges, bribe registrars. So we have a whole judicial system that only functions for some people. That's why some people have the confidence, I can tell you, they can even tell you that tomorrow they will obtain an injunction. In your own case, you bring a case, if you're a poor man, forget it. So it's like we're rigging every sector turn by turn. And then you say that's a reform. What is the reform in that? You're destroying various sectors one by one.
Let's take a break, Mr. Peterside. We'll be right back. There's so much more to talk about on the state of the nation, the way forward for our country. Our conversation with Mr. Atedo Peterside after this break. You understand? Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Mr. Atedo Peterside, an industrialist, well, the co-founder of Stanbic IBTC and founder of Anna Foundation, has been speaking with us on the program tonight. Thanks so much indeed for your time. You look at and you mentioned about the issue of investment in Nigeria. You see what is happening between Dangote and the manner in which pricing has gone in this country. And you can look at a few people, those who have really helped, really dared going into investment or entrepreneurship or business in this country. You're one of those. Dangote is one of those. The Femi Otodolas of this world is one of those. The Mike Adenuga of this world, who have several investment. It's a lot of audacity to run business in this country, and you see what is happening with the union issue. And on one hand, how do you think this can best be handled with the way and manner things have gone?
I think, people look at things and they say, okay, you have a freer foreign exchange market. But I think, like I said earlier, if you don't have parallel reforms to clean up and tidy up several other important activities, you are going to find that, you see, some people will always invest. But guess what? Those who will invest the most are those who are close friends of this government, because they are the only ones who can surmount all the obstacles that the inefficiencies thrown at them by the system. I've already given you the example, Sheung, that if you go to court, your case will not be heard. If you are the big businessman, close friend of this government, your case will be heard. So what is happening is that, although we say everybody is allowed to come and invest, it is clear that the people who are taking less risk are those who are close friends of this government, because most of the systems only work for them. And this is why I say that our biggest problem is state capture. These systems and rules and parameters that are supposed to be there to ensure that they work for 220 million Nigerians only work for 1 million Nigerians. And people understand that there are complete sectors in Nigeria. So the system is rigged against a few. Rigged every which way you turn. Look, there are top civil engineering companies that build houses for the private sector in Lagos. They won't even agree to bid for any government job in Abuja. Why? Because it's a waste of their time. They will just submit bids and they will never get the job. Doing government business in Abuja is a mess. There are several ministries. It's not Abuja alone, even in many states. There are several. Years ago, people used to fly from Lagos to Abuja to come and get LPO, to supply things to ministries. Nowadays, who does that? Guess who is supplying the stuff to the ministries? It's civil servants themselves. They've rigged the whole system. Many of them have their own companies out there. So they are awarding contracts to themselves. So that's why I said state capture. Progressively, things that 220 million people should compete for, only a narrow 1 million have access to. And that's also why the poverty is biting.
Because the money is not going around. It's in a cluster.
Let's go back to recruitment that we also rigging everywhere. Take a real life example, and you can check. The Lord is my witness. You said I'm the founder of Stanbic IBTC. I put it to you that 2 people that rose to become CEO of Stanbic IBTC, they walked in off the street. I didn't know them from Adam. They came in from university straight. All they did was put their CV down, and we had a system to allow everybody to come, give everybody a chance, give them tests and so on. That was how they ended up entering at entry level and rose all the way to CEO. That was how it was in the ministry at the beginning in Nigeria years ago. That's how it was in the judiciary. That's why it was everywhere. But progressively, we have rigged everything now where, as I said, state capture means something that is for 220 million people. Realistically, it's only for 1 million people. And it's happening in more and more sectors. Now, that is not a problem that the federal government by itself will get up and necessarily change, unless the elite in Nigeria demand change. But what's happening? The more that people capture either state revenue for themselves or capture, employment only for their own sons, the more the elite applaud them. In fact, the person doing that is deemed to be smart because you rig the system and only your own children can become judges. So I'm not saying one day we'll have a revolution, but to quote JFK, people who make a peaceful revolution, impossible, make a violent one inevitable. Do you think you can continuously take the resources of Nigeria that are for 220 million people and have 1 million people rig it and enjoy all of it and leave the rest hungry indefinitely?
Is the time bomb?
The people in that state capture have no conscience.
You look at what is happening in the energy sector, and specifically, I mentioned the Dangote issue and the union. On one hand, the union are accusing Dangote of high-handedness. On the other hand, there are those who are saying that the unions are overreaching themselves. That interplay, how do you describe it? What's your view?
Look, I think one thing is sure. The Dangote refinery. In banking, we talk about a bank that is too big to fail. The Dangote refinery is too big a project in Nigeria that it's a national project. It's one man's project, it's also a national project. So the government of the day must understand. The same way as in some countries, they will say, look, a bank is so big to fail because it controls everything. I think it's important to understand that the Dangote refinery, given the size, the scale, the fact that we have an NPC has continuously made a fool of us with the other refineries spending money. If you go and check, when they were voting money to repair Port Harcourt and Co, I came out shouting, saying that they would just steal the money. Perhaps have been vindicated already. So the result is that whether we like it or not, Dangote's refinery is an important national asset. So the only thing we have to do is to protect it, amongst other things. Yeah. Now, as for the unions, I don't think unionism should ever extend to the point where you have a dispute with Channels TV and you threaten that therefore you paralyze the whole nation. That is foul. That's not unionism. In fact, that is almost behaving like a warlord. If you have a dispute with an employer, you cannot, because of a dispute with one employer, you want to paralyze the whole nation as a means of putting pressure on one employer to do something. So we have to be very careful. And the more we are, also, please, let's understand that there are some countries that people don't want to invest in because the unions are too powerful. Yes, because why would a businessman want to go to a country where you make the smallest mistake and the union will shut you down, shut down the whole system, collapse everything? Will you invest in that kind of place? So it's important that we also ensure that the unions do not become so militant and do not start thinking even in terms of shutting down. We've heard stories about attempts at sabotage of the refinery and all that stuff. Look, we have to protect the national assets.
Mr. Peterside, you are one person that's spoken up on the issue of electoral integrity.
Yes.
And INEC's role in our elections. We've got a new INEC chairman, Professor Joash Amupitan. What are your hopes about that new leadership and the coming elections? There's going to be Anambra, Ekiti.
You know, I will never say never, but the INEC that was led by Mahmoud Yakubu was a national disgrace.
Is that fair to say?
You just have to go on the IREV. If you have time, I'll take you there myself. I'll show you result sheets that they bring out. Mutilated, change. Sometimes they change figures. They forget to change words. They add up. You see, I heard ex-governor Dixon saying in the Senate, he's now a senator, saying that we have to amend the Electoral Act in some important ways. See, and this is where our judiciary has not lived up to the required standards. I agree with Senator ex-Governor Dixon that for INEC, the burden of proof should shift to INEC. You can't allow a situation where INEC can do anything, bring out rubbish results, mutilated and everything, and then argue that it's for the victim to prove that what they've done is wrong. When a blind man can see that what they've done is wrong. You know, and also, the other thing I'll mention is that we have to be very careful in one area. You see, until recently, people felt even if INEC messed this up, the judiciary was your last resort. I think after Edo State elections, I don't think anybody has any faith left in our judiciary. These next elections we have, the next general elections, I don't think anybody realistically is going to go for elections, get a result he does not like, and then start going to the judiciary. Because I think the general acceptance now, general feeling now is that a judiciary is a waste of time. So sadly, what does that mean? We're in a situation where it's close to a time bomb. If INEC messes up, which they have done repeatedly, before people would wait and hope that the judiciary may do something. Now everybody knows that if INEC messes up, you should resort immediately to self-help. Because there's no use going to the judiciary.
There are major milestones under Mahmoud Yakubu in terms of technological development in our elections. And there are those who say,
he invested and developed all those things and sabotaged them himself.
Is that fair to say?
I will say it repeatedly. INEC sabotage. Why did INEC turn up? How many different stories did they give us when they turned off the servers? First, they claimed hackers. They were telling lies upon lies. The bottom line was that they were bringing out results. They were loading everything on beavers. A time came when they decided that, hey, you know what? Let's turn off everything and then take result sheets and start manipulating them. I went on TV myself. I was on a Rise TV showing all the result sheets and so manipulated. A blind man could see them. People overseas couldn't believe it. I referred them to the IREV. It's still there. So let's be honest.
Can one man be blamed for the actions of...
No. I'm not saying he was... I'm saying, but I'm talking about his regime. You mentioned that's a new person. So I'm just trying to be fair to the new person to say that, let me not say that he will be equally incompetent or corrupt. Let me not say that yet because he's yet to carry one election. But guess what? Conduct one election in Nigeria, I'll tell you who you are. With beavers and IREV and so on. Conduct one election, I'll tell you who you are. Please, let's be careful as well. The same INEC under Mahmoud Yakubu conducted Osho election. I went on IREV, I went through everything. Everything looked prim and proper. What changed thereafter? And then the judiciary also let us down in the sense that INEC announced so many rules. And then the judiciary says, you can announce rules to the whole country. This is what you're going to do.
What about
you can wake up and do a different thing.
What about the desperation of politicians who manipulate the process in everywhere?
Were the politicians in in Osun State governorship elections not desperate? But go and look at, go on to INEC IREV and look at the Osun results. You won't see all these lacerations, people changing everything. I think what happened was that INEC conducted a free and fair election in Osun State. APC was beaten. Perhaps some people decided that never again. This INEC should never again be allowed to conduct a free and fair election. Using beavers, using IREV, everything that they invested in. So it was sabotaged. That's when we had the era of servers being turned off, different stories why the server was turned off or not. So it would mean that we made all the investments in beavers, IREV, and so, and they sabotaged it from inside. Give me another moment. We need to take another break, and when we return on the home stretch, and a conversation with Mr. Atedo, we'll be right back. Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us. Our closing moment now with Mr. Atedo, Peterside. You are from Rivers State, and that state has seen a lot of political turbulence. You see how things went, and at the end of the day, it does look like things are simmer, and political peace has returned to the state. Are you satisfied with the way things went? I'm not satisfied with two broad areas. I think the administrator that was appointed, I think he should be made to render account. I don't think anybody should be giving huge sums of money, billions, and then do 6 months and run away. I think it should be made to render account. Are there indications of possible misappropriation? It does not matter. If you give me money, I've held positions before. On my own, I render account. I want to have everything well audited. I've run business, audited to show there are people who are in public office who leave proper evidence. Why would he be afraid of rendering proper account to whoever? That's number one. Because also it sets a precedent. Nobody should think that they bring you in as an administrator for 6 months or 3 months. You just come in there, spend huge sums of money and disappear. Isn't the onus on the president who appointed him? Sorry? Isn't the onus on the president and perhaps the national authority? The onus is on the man himself. He's a decent person to render account to Rivers people and everybody. Federal, Rivers, everybody. If I give you money, even your neighborhood resources, if those on your street gave you money to do something, wouldn't you render account to them immediately? If those on your street gave you money to do something for them, won't you render account to them? If he's not rendering account, what are the people of Rivers State helpless? No. I'm just making the point. Because it's Rivers money. I'm not even discussing Rivers. I'm discussing the principle that if you bring anybody in somewhere temporarily as an administrator, you give him huge sums of money. On his way out, he must render accounts. The place should be, there should even be a forensic audit, so that future people that come in know that if you step into a place, huge sums of money, you will be held accountable. That's a general statement. Okay? So that's what, so for me, it's non-negotiable. Yeah. Why do CEOs have to render accounts? Why are they audited accounts? Why are they published? It brings some control. Secondly, also, why I worry about that is that he was appointed. It was televised House of Rep. They had no quorum. They used the voice vote. Everybody knows that the voice vote is nonsensical when you're talking about 2/3. So, PDP, Supreme Court told us repeatedly that the elections in Nigeria is between parties. So it's the party that won an election. PDP decides PDP governors go to Supreme Court. Somebody was appointed for 6 months. For all of 6 months, Supreme Court did not hear the case. To me, that shows they're timid. That's my personal opinion. I stand to be correct. It shows they're timid. They have no liver. If you were the Chief Justice, wouldn't you hear the case? What are you afraid of? Why are you in that office? Just to be dodging cases and doing nothing? We're totally out of time, Mr. Atedo Peterside. But I must sincerely thank you, founder of Stanbic IBTC and of ANAP Foundation. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bless Nigeria.